Hello, and welcome to the first ByAnnie Facebook Live in 2021. It's not quite our very first Facebook Live. We've done a few others, and we've always really enjoyed doing them and said we need to do that more often. But one of our resolutions for the new year 2021 is that we're going to make this a weekly event. I basically said, tell me it's happening and I'll be there. So we're working hard to do this. I figure since I'm not going to be doing traveling this year, I've pretty much taken all my travel engagements off my schedule for 2020 and 2021. It's a good time to do it because I'll be here and I can plan on it. And I'm actually really looking forward to getting a chance to talk to you every week and interact with you. So our goal in doing this is to just have an informal chat weekly. We're planning to do it on Wednesdays at 2, and whatever we talk about will be saved. It'll be available on our Facebook page as a video. We'll also have links to it on our website and on our YouTube page. So if you miss it when it's live, know that you can always watch it later because we'll keep them saved. My goal is that each week I will talk about different ByAnnie products. We'll talk about tools. We'll talk about patterns. We'll talk about new fabrics. We'll talk about techniques. If there's something in particular that you'd like us to talk about, make sure you put a comment in or shoot us an email, give us a phone call. Let us know what you want us to cover. My goal is to go through all the ByAnnie products during the course of the year. I've kind of made a tentative schedule, and it actually amazed me. It pretty much takes a whole year to get through everything, and sometimes that's talking about more than one thing at once. So I know a lot of people, we had asked the question and asked people, what do you want us to cover? And a lot of people said, tell us about the older patterns. Tell us about how these products compare. Tell us about how these pattern sizes are different. So we hopefully will be sharing a lot of information, and let us know if there's something special that you want to know. So that said, this week I planned, because it's a new year, time for new beginnings, I thought, what better time to talk about some of our baby patterns. So, when you look at a new child, it's always lots of excitement and lots of new things to learn. And so that's what my focus is going to be today in terms of patterns. I also have some fun fabric to show you that is a brand new fabric that's just hitting stores about right now. And so I'm going to tell you about that. And my product that I want to feature this week is my very favorite tool, and it's the ByAnnie Stiletto and Pressing Tool. So I'm going to talk about that and show you all those various patterns. So let's start by talking about the stiletto. People often ask me, what's your favorite tool? And, a rotary cutter, I can't imagine quilting or sewing bags without a rotary cutter. So that's really high on the list. But this is a tool that I developed, so it's especially close to my heart. And it's also a tool that is pretty much in my hand all the time when I'm sewing. I don't use it all the time, so sometimes you'll wonder why in the world does she have that in her hand, and you'll notice that I put it down occasionally if you've watched any of my videos. But I depend on it so much that I really do keep it close at hand all the time. So this is what it looks like in the package. Here's one ready to go. Here are the things that I love about this tool. First of all, it's almost like having an extra hand. So I've got an extra finger here where I can manipulate fabrics, hold fabrics in place, and it enables me to keep it on the fabric all the way until the needle's there, which is not something I can do with my fingers. My fingers get in the way. So if you're a quilter, for instance, and you do a lot of piecing, you will love using this to just hold the fabric in place as it goes under your presser foot and through the needle, because you can't keep your finger there all the way that long. So that's one thing that it's great for. It's also really great for positioning things where you want them and holding them in place. I use it, I should have grabbed a spool of thread because I use it to open a spool of thread, and I may have Trevor run grab me one. One that doesn't have the top open, a brand new one if you can find one. But there's a lot of ways I use it. When I'm installing zippers, got some step outs here, And we're going to talk a whole lot about zippers in future segments. But when I'm installing a zipper, one thing that I do is I put my zipper right side down on top of whatever I'm going to put my zipper in, and I let it overhang a little bit, and then I stitch it in place with a 1/4-inch seam. My next step is to finger press that zipper tape over to the inside of my pocket and stitch down along the edge. Well, you can do that just with your fingers, but if you have a stiletto, it becomes much easier. And I always try to position it so that the zipper is on the left, the fabric's on the right, and then I take my stiletto and I basically just run it right along that seam. And I hope you can see how that takes that fabric and already starts pushing it over. So it helps to make sure that the threads are buried under there, and then as I start sewing, I can use the tip of the stiletto to push threads up underneath and hold it in place. So I can keep my stiletto right on that as I start stitching, and when my needle gets there and is holding my fabric down, I can move on to the next place, position it, and stitch to that. So it really helps for doing things that would just be much harder to do with fingers. So installing zippers is one time when I really use the stiletto. Another time is when I do bindings. And anybody who's made a ByAnnie pattern knows that we do a lot of bindings on our projects. I think that a binding adds a really fun decorative element to a pattern or a project. It also adds some body and stability to it, and in my opinion, it gives it that Cadillac finish, that binding that covers all those raw edges. Obviously, if it's on the outside is necessary, but even on the inside of a bag, I don't want raw edges showing, and so we use a lot of bindings to cover those, and a stiletto is really instrumental for that. So I'm just going to grab this little project. This is a free pattern that's available on our website called Peacekeeper, and it's a really good one to learn some basic skills of quilting and making handles and doing bindings. And so if you're looking for a fun, easy project to do, make sure you go check out that. Peacekeeper is part of our ByAnnie Basics series, and it includes a lot of really helpful video information that go all the way from cutting with rotary cutters to doing the binding at the end. We'll talk more about that in some future segments. But as far as how I use a stiletto when I'm binding, I can use it as I'm attaching the binding to hold the binding in place. So I'll be sewing along here, and as I get to this corner, and it's time to line the binding up with the corner, it's sometimes difficult to keep your finger holding all that. So I can use my finger to keep this out of the way here, but then I can use my stiletto to pull this into position and make sure that it's lined up right with the edge. So as you can see, I can hold that down where it needs to be while I use my fingers here to smooth this out and get rid of any pleats that might be in there. And then I keep going as I go. So positioning the binding as I do the first placement, that's one time where I use it. Once I've got my binding attached on that bag, then I also use the stiletto when it's time to turn this around to the front and stitch it down. And one of the best tips I can give you is that when you're sewing a binding on, make sure that you're sewing it with a really accurate 1/4-inch seam. Because if your seam is too narrow, when you fold your binding over, it's going to go too far over, and your line of stitching isn't going to fall out in the same place on the other side. Or if you don't make it go far enough, the edge of your binding is going to look wrinkly. So I'm pretty sure that on here I left some places where I didn't have a full 1/4-inch seam so I could show you. So as I'm doing my binding, I basically pick a point to start, and I take the tip of my stiletto, I position it in place, I hold it where I want it to be, and then I start stitching, and I work maybe an inch at a time. But before I do that, I fold my binding over all the way around and I test it. So if you look right here, you're going to see that this edge of the binding, I want to be just past this line of stitching. so that it falls out in the same place on the other side. But when I pull this over, I hope you can see, that's a lot further than that if I want a tight binding. So that's my clue that I need to go back and refine that stitching and make it a little wider. If you look at this corner, you're going to notice that when I try to bring this binding around, it doesn't go far enough. Actually, I could live with that. I want it to be a tight binding, and that's actually pretty perfect right there. Let's try this corner. I know there was one corner when I tested it that was too far, or at least it felt like it was. So let's just say that my binding only came to there. I don't want to see these lines of stitching. If you do, that means your binding isn't, your stitch here is too wide. So I can either go in there and trim that, or a lot of times what I can do is just use my stiletto to grab a hold of that and pull it in place and hold it there until I get it stitched down. I like a really full binding that's not wrinkly, so I can pull that over. So for bindings, I find this to be an absolutely essential tool. And knowing to go in and test that, you can see just by looking at some of the stitching on here, I had to go back and do a fair amount of refining on here. But that's what helps you get a really good binding. And having a stiletto to do it is the solution. Here's some things to know about the stiletto too. When we designed this, we picked a wood to make it out of a wood that's really lightweight but also really sturdy. It's a really good hardwood, and when you put this in your hand, you don't even know you're feeling it. It's really light. Your hand doesn't get tired. It's not like a heavy steel stiletto that makes your hand tired holding it. We did a lot of turning on the handle so that it fits your fingers really easily. And if you go to our website and click on our tutorials tab, you'll find a section that talks about the stiletto that shows some of the iterations that we went through trying to come up with the design. And it took us over a year, I think almost 2 years, going back and forth with our manufacturer to get just the perfect design. So deciding on the length of the tip took a long time. First it was short, then it was too long. So getting just the ideal length here took a lot of time. We decided to add a pressing tool on the other end so that when you're doing, working on bindings, for instance, and you want to press a seam open, you've got, see if I have a seam on here I can show you. This seam, instead of having to get up and run to the ironing board for one little seam, you just run your stiletto right along there. And it was amazing to me how hard it was to come up with exactly that right angle so that it worked really good and was comfortable for your hand. So you've got that. The other thing that we did is we flattened 2 sides of it. So when you drop it on your sewing table, it stays there and you're not crawling around underneath the table looking for it, because I'd had other tools that were rounded and I was forever losing them and having to go looking for them. The one thing that really sets this stiletto apart from every other stiletto on the market is that we send these tips to a needle making factory and they sand grind them for us. So they are just a little bit rough, not so rough that they're going to snag anything or hurt it, but rough enough that they really hang on to your fabric and keep it where you want it. And you're not constantly having your hand slide off. And that is what really makes you tired. So as you look, when I was showing you here on the bindings, you notice I can just grab that and position it right where I want it, and it holds it in place. If you get wrinkles in your binding as you come around, I often will take the stiletto and even put it right in between the layers and use it to get rid of wrinkles. So there's so many ways that you can use it. If you don't already have one of these, you really need to get one and try it out. When I was teaching classes, I would always take 6 or 8 stilettos with me and let people try them. And I've heard over and over and over again, once I tried that, I had to have it. And it's the best tool I've ever used. So if you haven't tried one already, I hope you will. We are going to do a little giveaway at the end of our segment today. So pay attention if you might be lucky enough to start your new year right and win one. So that's the ByAnnie Stiletto and Pressing Tool. If you have any questions that I didn't address, be sure you let us know. Trevor is monitoring the comments section, and so if you have questions, we'd love to be able to answer those for you. All right, let's talk next about some baby patterns. So we decided this week to feature a new fabric that is by a designer who's a young mother. Her name's Stephanie Soebbing. I actually thought it was Soebbing, but I watched one of her video posts last night. It's Soebbing, but it's pronounced Soebbing. And she's a young mother, a young designer. She has a lot of really great tutorials on her website, and you want to check her out. But her fabrics are produced by QT Fabrics, who we love working with, and these are a portion of her new line. I actually have several more in here that I want to show you. And she's got really some fun prints here. And we were looking to make some new versions of our baby items, and my staff keeps saying, young mothers don't want things that look childish. They want something that's modern and hip. If they're carrying it, they want something that they will enjoy. So when this fabric came in, we all decided it's the perfect one to do something that doesn't scream baby. It's not pink and blue. So she's got several main prints. The one that we used on several of our items is a big owl. It's in shades of teal and navy and gray and this really pretty apple green. And so we use that on some of our items. And then she's got two smaller owl prints that are unidirectional. The owls go all different directions, so you don't have to treat it like a directional print. There's a gray one and a lighter teal one, which we really loved. Then she's got some geometric prints, which I buried under here. And there's three different ones, the navy blue with the green in it, a medium one with the green and teal, and then a more monochromatic one it's an interesting fabric. When you look at it, it almost looks like it's a jersey cotton knit, but it's just a regular cotton. But it's got a really nice hand, and it's sewed beautifully. Then she's got several great coordinate fabrics that kind of read as solids. There's a green kind of wood print, green, we decided those were feathers, a really nice darker turquoise with lots of colors mixed in, and then a darker one even yet that reads more as a solid. It's the same wood print, but in the dark navy blues. So just really a beautiful line and fun to use. So let me show you how we used them on these projects. And I'm going to set these out of the way. Right there. Whoops, I think I picked up one that I shouldn't have. The designer is Stephanie Soebbing, and the name of the line is Nocturne, and it's by QT Fabrics, and it should be hitting stores now. I think they started shipping it in December, so it should be available, and you can see her information right there. So Nocturne is the name of the line. So when we decided, one of our favorite baby patterns, and this, if you're ever looking for a great shower gift, this is one of my go-to projects. Another one is the catch-all caddy. But the changing station is quick, simple to make, and one that new parents really appreciate. And this is a bag that even a man would carry. So when dad needs to take over the changing duties, here's a bag for him. So it's basically looks like a little clutch bag. It's got a handle that you can wear it over your hand or your wrist, or you can hook it onto a stroller. You can hook it onto another bag. This just opens up so that you can hook it over what you want it to. And then it's got a little strap for carrying. Zipper on the outside, zippered pocket, so mom can put her phone in there, keys, whatever she needs to carry, or he. And then when you open it up, you've got a couple of mesh pockets here, so you've got places to put diapers, an extra change of clothes, wet wipes, any of the things that you need. And then there's this great changing pad at the bottom. We designed this when my grandson was small, but not a tiny baby yet. And Glow used this with Liam until he was out of diapers. So, it was perfect for even the babies as they got bigger for his size. The great thing about this is that it goes on with Velcro, so you can remove it and throw it in the washer if it needs to be washed. We use Soft and Stable in all of our projects to give them good body and stability, and that washes beautifully. So as you take this off and need to wash it, it's going to look brand new for a long, long time. So one thing to know about Soft and Stable is that if you want it to fold, it's really good at following directions. If you stitch a line along it, it knows that's where it's supposed to fold. So when you go to put this back on and put it away, we've got a line of stitching here that encourages it to fold there, another line here, which is encouraging it to fold there, and then lines here and here, so that as you fold it up, it automatically folds where it needs to go, and then close it up and you're ready to go. Glow really appreciated this when Liam was little, not a tiny baby where you needed a diaper bag with everything in it. But she said, all I really need is a couple diapers and a change of clothes, and this was all she needed to carry. So if you've got a new baby coming or know someone who does, keep this in mind. It really is a great project. The other nice thing about it is once, the baby's grown up, you don't need the changing pad anymore. You can take that off and you've still got a nice little clutch that you could put, toys in, any of those things. So it has a long life. Another thing to know, my friend Leslie, Lely Bunny, at Lely Bunny, if you follow her on Instagram, she's got lots of great stuff. She used this pattern to make an ironing pad that she takes to classes. So she, instead of using just Soft and Stable here, she used canvas on the top. She used a layer of Enso Bright. She used a layer or two of Soft and Stable. I think she used some wool batting in there, all those things. And she has a nice ironing surface that she can use when she gets to class. And then she's got space here to put her other tools. So that was another way to use this if if babies aren't in your life. So that's changing station. Close it up and get that one out of the way. And let me see, somewhere here. Oh, if you want to see it in another fabric, this is a same pattern, different fabric. This is a new line of fabric from Free Spirit by a designer from Australia. Her name is Denise Burkitt, and this line is called Stillness in Nature. And I believe this is going to be hitting stores soon too, so keep your eye out for that. Go to the Free Spirit Fabrics website, and I'm sure you'll get all the information. But this, again, is another great one. Not your typical baby fabrics, but really fun to do. We all laughed when we saw this one because we said, man, you would never have to even wash this one because baby poop would never even show up on this fabric. It's kind of the same color and lots of stuff to blend it in. But there you go. That's Stillness in Nature by Denise Burkitt from Free Spirit Fabrics. So just another version of that. The next project I want to show you made with Nocturne is this one, which is called Backseat Babysitter. And I designed this for using in the car. It's a great way to keep the kids in the back seat entertained while you're driving. So this will hook around the headrest of the car. This strap can hook around the seat, and it's adjustable for whatever width your seat is. You can make it narrower or smaller. And then you've just got lots of pockets. So this pocket was designed so that you can open it from the top and stick in an iPad, and then open this one from the bottom to let the headphones come out. So the kids could sit in the back and watch their movies on the screen, but keep the iPad nice and safe away from sticky fingers. They could put the headphones on so you don't have to listen to Frozen for the millionth time, and everybody's happy. There's pockets here that you can put drinks in. You may not know this about Soft and Stable, but Soft and Stable has great insulative qualities. So if you have, like a sippy cup that's full of ice, you're not going to have problems with condensation dripping down on things below. So it really keeps it cold in there and nice and insulated. So great for sippy cups, bottles, even your big gulps will fit in here. And then we've got pockets here, pockets down here, more pockets. There's a secret pocket you can open that zips shut. So lots of places to put things to keep kids entertained in the car. Or, even for adults to keep things that you need to carry with you, Kleenexes and maybe manuals and all those things that you need to have available in the car but don't have room for and don't want them just lying loose. The other thing that this will convert to is a stroller organizer. So we've got some straps here on the side. It will fold in half. And this, because this all zips up, you can still easily access it, but nothing's going to fall out. And these will hook over the handles of the stroller and then close down. So another way to use that. So it's kind of a combination stroller organizer or car organizer. And that's been a really popular pattern since we introduced it several years ago. One thing to know about this is there's lots of ways you can customize it. We designed this one using the gray owls as the main fabric, the turquoise geometric as the lining. So you can see that through there, but mostly you see the owls, and then we did this as the outside. So when you look at the back, you see the owls, but if you want it to turn that and have the owls visible through here, and maybe turn this pocket so that the geometric showed, turn these. There's so many ways that you can play with it and just make it really a fun project. So that one's called Backseat Babysitter. And the last one that I want to show you is Every Day, Every Way. This was designed at the request of, after having lots of requests for a diaper bag. And a lot of people said, we need a diaper bag and I'm going to make Ultimate Travel for that. In my opinion, Ultimate Travel is really big. If I was a mother trying to, carry a baby, I wouldn't want a bag that big. So this is smaller than Ultimate Travel, but still really spacious. And this has really deep pockets, front and back, that close with magnets, so perfect places to be able to put lots of stuff. Even as a regular business bag, I think this would be ideal because you could put your folders and paperwork and things in there and have plenty of room. So there's one of those on the front and one on the back. There's nice deep pockets on the sides where you could put sippy cups, baby bottles, and things. And then on the inside, let's see if I can turn this so you can see it. We have a full mesh pocket on one side that's great for diapers, wet clothes, dirty things that you need to be able to see. You don't want to forget that they're in there. Having the pocket made out of mesh keeps them ventilated and also makes them so that they're there. And then on the other side, we did some bellowed dividers. So these are not pockets. They're dividers that open wide. So for instance, if you've got a baby bottle and you want to put it in, the pocket or the divider expands all the way to the bottom so that you can put that in and it's not closing and falling. You can put a package of wet wipes in here. You can put a whole slew of diapers in there, and it's just really nice to be able to organize those but still have plenty of room available. The reason this bag is called Every Day, Every Way is that it's great to carry every day, and there's lots of ways you can carry it. So the basic way to carry it is with these padded handles. These have soft and stable in them, so they're really soft and cushiony and comfortable to carry. You could carry it over your shoulder, over your arm, either way. We also added a carrying strap so that if you want it to carry it over your shoulder or cross body, that's another option. And we put a nice pad on there so that it's comfortable when you put it over your shoulder. We added straps that you can hook it on your stroller. So those fasten onto the same rings as the carrying strap, but you can use those. And then finally, what I kept hearing from young mothers was, I want it to be a backpack. I don't want to have anything in my hands besides what I already have to carry. Can we make it as a backpack? So it also has the option of backpack straps. My advice to people making this bag is pick the ones that you think you'll use. I would definitely recommend putting these because I think they're pretty essential. But if you don't think you'll ever carry it as a backpack, skip those. If you're going to carry it as a backpack, you probably don't need the crossbody strap. So you don't need to do those. And if you're not going to hook it on a stroller, skip those. So you can reduce the weight of the bag and your investment in the bag by not making all the various options. When we make our models, we put all the options on so that people can see them, but if you were actually making it, pick and choose the ones that you think you'll use. So that's Every Day, Every Way, and that pattern also includes a little changing pad that you can make with the scraps left over, and it's just really simple to do. Folds up, has Velcro on it to close it, and it will fit inside the bag. We did another version of that bag using the fabric from Free Spirit. This is the same fabric as the changing station that I showed you. So looks a little bit different, but it's all the same line. And we love how this looks. A little kind of pink, kind of girly, but doesn't have to be girly. And these really nice abstract flowers. Denise does hand painting on all of her fabrics, and I just think they're really beautiful. So that is Every Day, Every Way, made with stillness in nature. So we talked about Every Day, Every Way. We talked about Backseat Babysitter. We talked about Changing Station. We talked about the Stiletto. Trevor brought me a thing of thread so I can show you how this works. You get a spool of thread that's all wrapped in plastic, and it's hard sometimes to get that off. I can use my stiletto to get in there and help me get it going. I have a very sore finger, so it doesn't want to pull down on this very well. It's that time of year where your skin starts cracking. But here's a little tip. So I love using Superior Threads So Fine 50. And the thread is caught right up here at the top in this little groove. And it's really hard to get your finger in there and open that. So I take my stiletto and I go right where that opening is, and I slide it under the label. Of course, now that you're watching, I can't get it to work, but come on. There. So I slide it underneath there, and then I can use it to push that thread out so that I can undo it. But then if I just go like that, my label is closed again and it's not ruined, because trying to get that out without tearing your label and losing what number that thread is sometimes really difficult. So I can use my thread and then bring it back and put it back in the groove, and I'm ready to go. So that's another use. The other thing, they usually have the top cut but not the bottom, so you can just take your stiletto and push it in there and make the hole in the bottom so it goes on your thread stand. So another little useful tip for using the stiletto. Do we have any questions or anything that we need to address, Trevor?
One question was, how long does it take for you to develop a pattern?
Oh, to develop a pattern takes a long time, a whole lot longer than I think it does in my mind. And I would say that from the time I come up with an idea until a pattern is ready to go, which now means a video filmed, an intro video filmed, edited, ready to go, is probably at least a 6-month process. So usually what I do when I'm coming up with an idea for a new pattern is I work with my team and we come up with ideas. We start making prototypes. We meet and fine-tune those and decide, what needs to be changed. And sometimes that's weeks and weeks of trying to come up with that. We try to meet once a week to discuss it, but we work really hard to get it right before we start writing the pattern. Once we've got the design figured out, of course, we keep notes as we go. Then we will, I'll sit down and write a draft pattern, and then that goes into the testing phase, which means giving it to all the people who test patterns for me, getting their input, starting to make changes and refining it, rearranging things, changing the language so that everybody can understand it. And once that's done, then we start sewing models and I start writing scripts. So I write scripts for the add-on video. We pick out the things that we think you're going to need help with. We do an intro video that explains the project to you and gives you some ideas for how you can use it. Then we film those videos. Then it goes to Jake to edit them. And it's a long process, but a lot of fun. And we hope you appreciate what we do. We're finding that the add-on videos and the work that we've put into it really helps. We don't get very many questions like we did on some of our older patterns that don't have all those things. We're working hard to finished some new patterns. We were supposed to be at market in November, and we weren't ready by then, or in October. And so we're hoping to come up with our new patterns in the next couple months, have those ready for you to do, and we're already starting on ones for the next season. So it's an ongoing process here that we're always working on developing patterns. We are going to do a giveaway today, and what we've got is 3 yards of fabric from Nocturne. So we've got basically the fabrics that we used to make this, except we substituted a different coordinate for the bindings. But we've got the geometric that we used for the outside, we've got the owls that we used for the inside, and then the green to use for the coordinate. There's a little over 1 yard of each, and we're also going to add one of our favorite ByAnnie stiletto impressing tools. So what we'd like you to do is leave us a comment about something that you learned today or something that you appreciated about the thing, and tag a friend. So share it with your friend. Tell them to come join us next week live at 2 p.m. and they can register, I think, on our site so that we know they're interested. And send us some hearts. Let us know you're listening. Let us know what you'd like us to cover. And unless somebody else has questions, I think I'll just say goodbye, and we'll look forward to seeing you again next week. Next week, I'm hoping to talk about Soft and Stable, some of the story about how it came to be, what makes it special, and why you need to use it in your bags and purses and placemats and all kinds of other projects. So thank you again for joining us, and have a happy, happy, happy New Year.